we should be gentle with ourselves when it comes to these nighttime wake ups. Like, we shouldn't feel guilty for waking up at the middle of the night. It's all extremely normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome back, sleepers, to our ongoing series of conversations with sleep experts, from doctors to writers to the people who spend their lives helping us understand what's going on in our minds at night. I'm your host, Natalie Walton, the GM of BetterSleep, and I'm so pleased to have Lindsay Scola with us today. Lindsay is a writer, a speaker, and a sleep advocate who helps people understand their sleep without shame, pressure, or impossible routines. She blends science, lived experience, and humor to make sleep your biggest power move. Hello, Lindsay. Welcome. It is so great to have you here today.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So, today we're going to talk about something that so many of us experience but rarely understand, and that is waking up in the middle of the night. Why it happens, why it's often completely normal, and how to tell when it might be a signal worth paying attention to. Let's begin with a little reality check because the numbers are actually super fascinating. Waking up in the middle of the night is incredibly common. One US study found that about 35% of people wake up at least 3 times a week. And a similar study across several European countries found almost one third of people report the same thing. So, Lindsay, I'd love to ask, why is this such a recurring phenomenon for so many of us?
Well, so waking up in the middle of the night is completely normal. We were actually biologically programmed for it. So if you think back thousands of years when we were living in the caves, we needed to know when the lions were coming in so we could grab our people and get out. Very heroic. Now, fast forward, we still have lions. They just look a little bit different. Their work stress or things with family, even good stress can sort of manifest the same way in our sleep. Our brain doesn't really know the difference between being excited about our upcoming wedding or a memo that's due next Thursday that you have no idea how to write. So, what's happening overnight is that we have a temperature shift. So, our bodies really like cold to sleep. So, our temperature drops in the evening so that we can fall asleep easier. And then we sort of reach our coldest between like 2 and 4 in the morning. And around that time, our cortisol also starts to naturally rise so that we can wake up in the morning. So we've got a little bit of a temperature rise and a little bit of a cortisol rise, which makes our sleep a little bit light at this time. So if we already have some cortisol in our system from some stress that's there, we're going to wake up. And so the wake up isn't the problem at all. It's sometimes the spiral that comes after it that keeps us awake in the middle of the night.
And I think what's even more interesting is that before the Industrial Revolution, people didn't even try to sleep straight through the night. They followed what's called segmented sleep. Can you tell us more about that pattern and why it used to be considered normal?
Yeah, so we used to have sort of a cosmic playlist when it came to our sleep. We rose with the sun, we rested with the dark, and then Thomas Edison came and gave us, thankfully, electricity so that you and I could be on our computers talking to each other right now across a continent. But along with that came some sacrifices. So back before we had electricity in the house, people sort of went to bed as soon as it got dark. And then they would wake up in the middle of the night and they'd be up for a couple of hours. They'd spend time with family, they'd read, they'd pray, they'd have sex, whatever people did before the internet. Then they'd go back to sleep and then they'd wake up again with the sun. And so this was a concept of two sleeps, and it was completely normal. Then came the Industrial Revolution and electricity in the home, and we started getting this sort of condensed work schedule. And with that along, our sleep got condensed into a time period as well. But just because we've evolved on something doesn't mean our body doesn't have a memory of what used to happen.
So, if waking up in the night is part of our history and our biology, where did the misconception come from that it's not normal?
Well, we kind of never learned about sleep. This thing that we spent a third of our life doing, no one ever taught us about it. When you think back to elementary school, we learned about the food pyramid. Depending on how old you are, some of us learned how to balance a checkbook, but we never learned what sleep should feel like and what's going on. And we don't really talk about it. So we tend to make things feel like it's our fault when it happens, especially middle of the night wake ups, because what usually happens is we're in our amygdala, our fight or flight place. And this is really great for getting you out of a burning car, saving the family from lions. It's not great for rational decision making. So this tends to be the place where we tell ourselves that we did this, we messed something up, we woke up in the middle of the night, we're never going to sleep again. Next thing you know, it's been like 2 hours and we're wide awake and we know that the alarm is going to go off in 45 minutes. And what do we do? And so, really, we have to do some education for ourselves that one, this is totally normal. And then there's some really helpful tools that we're going to get into later about how we can make this easier on ourselves. And really, what you do as soon as you wake up, so you can roll back over and go to sleep versus spending hours awake and usually revving yourself up.
All right, so now we're going to talk about how do you fix this spiral in the moment. So, when do nighttime wake ups move from normal sleep stuff into something worth looking at more closely?
So, if you are occasionally waking up in the middle of the night, and I know we're going to talk about some tools here in a moment, remind yourself that that's normal. Now, if you are finding yourself constantly waking up, like say you need to pee multiple times a night, this could actually be a symptom of sleep apnea. We've all heard about snoring and gasping. That isn't always the case. And for a lot of women, especially, needing to use the restroom multiple times at night is actually a symptom of sleep apnea. Because if you think about it, you and I are talking right now, our airways are open, our brain is telling us that we're awake. And when you have sleep apnea and that airway closes, your body sends a signal, oh my God, I can't breathe. It opens it up. And sometimes this wakes us up, sometimes it doesn't. But if you think about the thing you do first thing in the morning, your system relieves itself. So if you're continually waking up throughout the night, your system wants to relieve itself. So that's one red flag. Another red flag is that some sleep disorders cause fractured sleep. So you can fall asleep fine, but you can't stay asleep. So if you're finding yourself that this is constantly happening to you, where you wake up and nothing is necessarily going on, you're not spinning about anything, you just find yourself wide awake and feel like you have very little control over when you sleep, these are two times where it's good to see a sleep specialist. And a sleep specialist is a specific doctor that's trained on diagnosing and treating sleep disorders, which are actually pretty common. About 1 in 5 of us has a sleep disorder, and they're only diagnosed at about 18%. So that is millions of people worldwide that are in need of medical attention and have no idea.
So, now we're going to play a quick round of a game that we're calling Sleep Quirk or Sleep Alert. I'm going to read some 3 a.m. scenarios, and you're going to tell us whether they're normal sleep quirks or whether someone should raise an eyebrow and take notice. Let's jump into it, shall we?
Yes,
Number one, I wake up in the middle of the night once or twice a week, but fall back asleep within 20 minutes.
that is totally normal, and that's our goal. When you wake up in the middle of the night, if you've been awake for more than 20 minutes, you're going to want to get out of bed to give yourself a reset. But if this is just happening, you're able to roll over and go back to sleep, nothing to worry about.
I wake up every single night and I'm up for an hour or more.
So we'll talk about this in a minute with some of these tools, but just because you're waking up and you're up for a long period of time, if you try these tools that we work on and it starts fading away and you're not noticing these same sort of being awake, nothing to worry about. If this is happening for a long period of time, it's worth seeing a sleep specialist to see if there's something else going on.
I wake up at 3 a.m., drenched in sweat.
So this can be a sign of perimenopause and menopause with our sleep, and it is absolutely normal, not pleasant, but it's nothing to worry about on that. Now, when someone tells us that we can't do anything to affect our sleep or to make it better during perimenopause and menopause, that's absolutely wrong. There's lots of things that we can do. And so I really recommend having a toolkit ready to go. So if you're starting to have hot flashes, what we want to do is look at moisture wicking sheets and moisture wicking pajamas that they have now. Because if you're waking up drenched in sweat and you're keeping your room cool, because that gives us the best sleep, you can actually get really cold later on, which is going to affect your sleep. But if we can wick that moisture away, that's going to make you more comfortable. The other thing is if you wake up and you're really hot, I suggest having separate blankets from your bed partner because you can be ready to just throw off a blanket and go back to sleep. Have a fan ready to go so you can kick that on, or even have a chemical ice pack in your nightstand so you can just shake that up and use it. And then that should calm your system down to go back to sleep.
I wake up at 3 a.m. starving.
So a lot of people can have a blood sugar dip in the middle of the night. And so if this is happening to you, try a sort of a high protein snack about an hour before you go to sleep. So this could be something like a scoop of almond butter or maybe a Greek yogurt, but something that's going to help you sort of get through the night so that you don't have that blood sugar dip that makes you be like, oh my God, I'm so hungry, I can't even think.
And the last one, I wake up and need to pee multiple times a night.
This is definitely a signal to go see a sleep specialist. Even if you don't think that you are a loud snorer or that you gasp in your sleep, because this can be a sign of sleep apnea, especially for women. Also, look out for things like waking up with a headache or dry mouth or cotton mouth when you wake up in the morning, or if you're noticing that you're having really bad dips in the afternoon where you just can't keep your eyes open.
This is so helpful. And I think what I get from this conversation is that we should be gentle with ourselves when it comes to these nighttime wake ups. Like, we shouldn't feel guilty for waking up at the middle of the night. It's all extremely normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, if someone wants to improve this pattern, what's the first thing that they can do tonight to make it easier to fall back asleep?
So the first thing we want to do when we wake up in the middle of the night, and we talk about 3 a.m. wake ups because it is sort of the magic middle of the night number. But this can work if you wake up at midnight, 1:45, 4:15, it doesn't matter. So the first thing I want when you wake up is to absolutely not look at the clock. And remember that we're in our amygdala, our fight or flight. So our goal here is to bring down our prefrontal cortex, our rational decision making. So we want to do something gentle with ourselves to just sort of distract us from the fact that we woke up. So I love to do a body scan. This is where you start down at your toes and you feel if there's anything going on, and you work up your legs. And we're not judging anything; we're just noting. And then you work up your thighs and your stomach and up to your chest and your shoulders and your head. And what we're doing there is we're just distracting our brain to come out of that real fight or flight place and trigger our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest. Now, let's say you do that and you feel sleepy and you roll over and go back to sleep. Fantastic. Here's another one that you can try. It's called cognitive shuffling. So you pick a letter and then you say a word. A, apple, B, bear, C, cat. It does not have to be fancy. There doesn't have to be any rules around it. We actually want this to be very easy on our brain because the goal isn't to entertain us. The goal is to distract us. So if you do that and you feel sleepy, fantastic. Now, we never want to stay in bed for more than 20 minutes. And I don't want you to look at the clock. So this is a sort of a guess. I've been laying here for 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. I want you to get out of bed and go do something else. I don't want you to worry about staying in the dark because when we stay in the dark, when we are up in the middle of the night, all that does is tell our brain we can't sleep and give us more stress. So we're going to take all the stress out of this at this moment. And I want you to go do something that a low activity where you don't have to do a lot of thinking, like fold laundry. I clean the kitchen. I really hate cleaning. Like it's absolutely my worst thing. I really loathe it. So sometimes my brain is like, no, thank you. I'll go back to bed. But the goal is to go do something else, distract ourselves. And then when we feel sleepy, go get back in bed. So why is it that we want to feel sleepy? Because a lot of us, this has happened for a long time, and we have trained our brain to think that the bed is a battlefield. And so if we get up and we go do something else and we feel sleepy and we go back to bed and we fall asleep, we start retraining our brain to associate the bed with sleep. So the last thing I want you to do is go lay down on the couch and fall asleep. Because if this is all about retraining and we go and we fall back asleep on the couch, then we've told our brain that the couch is safe and the bed is dangerous. So, as soon as you feel sleepy, even if you're sitting on the couch, let's say you're organizing recipes or you're going through magazines to decide which ones you want to keep, and you feel sleepy on the sofa, go get back in bed. So, all of this is just about training our brain to go do something else and have something ready to go. And I really love a sound reset at this moment. So, I sleep with a sound sleep mask. So it has flat Bluetooth panels in it, and it's a blackout mask. And when you do that, you're giving your brain something else to think about, but because it's blackout in front of you, it feels really safe to go back to sleep.
So helpful. And along with that, how can tools like Better Sleep support someone in these moments, either before bed or when they wake up at 3 in the morning and can't fall back asleep?
So this is where that sound reset comes really into play because Better Sleep is filled with these really fantastic tools that can take your brain off what it might be wanting to ruminate on, and fall back asleep. Because effort is the enemy of sleep. And so anytime we start putting effort into our why am I awake, we are turning our brain on so much that it's not going to fall back asleep. So this is like the reason I said don't look at the clock, is because once we look at the clock, we start doing math. It is 3:17 a.m. My alarm goes off at 6 a.m. I have this many minutes to go back to sleep. Next thing you know, we're wide awake. And so when you have something like Better Sleep, which is just such an easy tool that you can just hit what you need, close your eyes, and go back to bed, you've taken that stress out of the situation.
If these wake ups persist or they become disruptive, is that when you recommend seeing medical or getting professional guidance?
Absolutely. So if you are someone who has a hard time falling asleep, or you're staying asleep for a long time in the middle of the night and you think you're dealing with insomnia, there is something called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, and there are great specialists in this. If you're somebody who can fall asleep fine but can't stay asleep, I really want you to go see a sleep specialist. And if some of the sleep apnea symptoms that we talked about, are happening, please go see a sleep specialist. Sometimes our general practitioners don't exactly know what to look for, and a sleep specialist is going to be the person who's going to ask you the right questions and help you come up with a plan together. But I really want you to trust your gut. If something feels like it's not right in the way that you're waking up, it is always okay to seek help. Because that's the only way that we get better. That's the only way we get information. And that's why sleep specialists are here.
This is so helpful. So, to wrap this up, Lindsay, what's the one message you want people who feel discouraged about their nighttime wake ups to walk away with?
I want you to remember that waking up in the middle of the night is completely normal. You have not done anything wrong. There is nothing to feel guilty about, and you are retraining your body. So take the pressure off yourself. When you wake up, remind yourself this is nothing I did. Go out and try a bunch of different things to figure out what your thing is. My favorite thing is a sound reset. You might find that you like going into the living room and doing 20 minutes of a puzzle, and that makes you feel better, and you come back to sleep. It is okay to play. Sleep is so uniquely personal to each of us. And we never learn that it's okay to figure out what's going to work best with your brain. So if you think about eating, and you know that you're supposed to feel a certain way out of food and your body's supposed to feel a certain way out of food, you know that you can experiment. You might do really well with a Mediterranean diet, and I do really well with a high protein diet, but not vice versa. It's going to be the same thing with what makes you feel comfortable at night and what makes you get back to sleep easier. The last thing I want you to do is get on your phone and doom scroll or do anything that's going to wake you up more when you can remember this is nothing I did. I've got tools ready to go, and I'm happy to try everything till I figure out what my thing is.
Lindsay, thank you so much. Your story and dedication to helping people sleep better, it's truly inspiring and it's deeply appreciated. You can learn more about Lindsay's work at her website, lindsayscola.com. Please be sure to download Better Sleep to explore soothing content designed to help you gently fall back asleep during nighttime wake ups. And until the next episode, be patient with your nights and yourself. Better sleep is something that you can build one night at a time. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thank you for having me.